Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be part 116, chapter 116, entitled Birthday Boy. Izuku hummed a bit to himself as he cooked breakfast. Today was July 15th, his birthday. He had woken up early to cook himself a nicer breakfast. He set the table, and then went to wake his mom up. Soon he was bringing her to the table. "Guess what day it is today?" he asked, voice cheerful, as he took his own seat. His mom didn't respond, and Izuku stared sadly. "It's July 15th, he said, looking at her, hoping for any sort of reaction. Anything, really, to show that she knew how special the day was. But he supposed today was a bad day, because she gave no reaction. Izuku swallowed, words dying in his throat as he looked down at his food. "I guess it's not that big of a deal after all, huh?" he said. He sighed and ate his food silently. He did get a text about halfway through, though, from Auntie Mitsuki, wishing him a happy birthday. He smiled at that. After breakfast, he cleaned up, and then got ready to go to school. Izuku took the early train, and made his way, arriving as one of the first students. He missed the days when he and Aizawa would get a few minutes alone. Even if they didn't say anything, it was nice just to have that moment. But it seemed that Saturday he'd get to spend the day with his teacher, even if it was just so Aizawa could catch up on some sleep. Izuku waved as Tenya came in, and the boy smiled. "Hello, Izuku. How has your morning been?" Tenya asked. Izuku gave a shrug. "It's all right," he said. "Well, I hope your day gets better. It's your birthday. You should have a good day," Tenya said, doing his arm chopping motion. "I have gotten you a gift, which I hope you like," the boy added, going to his bag and pulling something out. Izuku blinked in surprise, tearing up a bit as he held the gift. Did I do something wrong?" Tenya asked, looking worried as he saw Izuku's tears. No, Izuku said quickly. "It's just been a while," he said, "since someone other than Auntie and Bakugo got me something. And he only got me something because of Auntie Mitsuki," he said, sniffling a bit. "I see," Tenya said. "Anyways, I hope you like the gift." Izuku carefully opened the gift, finding it was some nice notebooks with plastic covers. "Thank you, Tenya," Izuku said, smiling. Tenya smiled back, giving a nod. Soon, more of their classmates started coming in, and Izuku was overwhelmed at all of them, wishing him a happy birthday, and a few others had gifts for him. From Denki, he got a little phone decoration, a dangling Pikachu. From Uraraka, he got a set of pens, which went well with his notebook. Nato even stopped by before classes to hand him a gift, which was a couple of coupons for the cat cafe they had gone to for Nato's birthday. Izuku smiled at the gift. "Thanks. Would you like to go on Sunday?" he asked. Nato nodded. "That sounds fun, but you don't have to take me. You can take anyone," the boy said. "I want to take you," Izuku said, giving a smile to Nato. The boy gave a slight smile back. "Well, of course you do. You have impeccable taste," the boy stated smugly, grinning. "See you later, my rival," he said, waving and leaving the class. "Dark Shadow and I have also gotten you a gift," Fumikage said, handing over a box. "It should hopefully help against the abyss in an emergency. We always keep some on us," the boy said. Curious, Izuku opened the gift and found them to be little round balls. You throw them on the ground like those poppet firecrackers, and it will light up in a bright light that lasts for a good 30 seconds. It will help to tame Kaida if you start to lose control of her at night," Fumikage said. Izuku gave a nod. "Thank you," he said, taking the gift with a smile. His friends really were so amazing and kind. As the bell rang, Aizawa came in. "Good morning, class," he said. "Good morning, Sensei," they returned. And with that, the day passed normally, though Aizawa had asked him to stop by his office at lunch. So Izuku went during lunch. "You wanted to see me, Sensei?" he asked, arriving in the room. Aizawa nodded and tossed something, which Izuku caught. "Happy birthday, kiddo," he said. "Thank you," he said, giving a small smile. Looking at the object, he saw it was a jelly packet. He smiled and happily sipped at the delicious treat. A moment later, Yamada came in. "Hey, little listener, I heard today was a very special day to you," the blonde said, grinning. "I hope you don't mind if I got you a little something." Izuku blinked, stunned. So many people were getting him so many things. It was amazing. "I don't mind," he said. "But you didn't have to," he stated. "I wanted to, little listener," he said, smiling, and soon he handed over a small box. Izuku opened the box and found a scarf. He pulled it out and realized that it looked a lot like Aizawa's capture weapon. "I know it's not quite the cold season, but I had a few of these made a few years back, though Sho was mean and didn't let me sell limited edition Eraserhead merch. Anyways, I figured if anyone deserved to have a piece, it was you. I've given most of our friends one, and even if we're your senseis, you're definitely someone we're close to," the teacher said, grinning. Izuku blushed, holding the scarf in his arms. "Thank you," he said, smiling at the two teachers. Noticing how Aizawa-sensei was blushing, head ducked into his capture weapon. "Way to show me up," the man grumbled, nudging Yamada and pouting at him. Yamada laughed. "Aw, Sho, your gift couldn't have been that bad," he said. "I liked it. He got me a jelly packet," Izuku said, smiling as he held up the treat. Yamada sent a look at Aizawa. "Really, Sho? Pulling one of your ruses on the kiddo's birthday?" Izuku blinked, tilting his head to the side. "Ruse?" Aizawa huffed. That wasn't the real gift, kiddo," he said. "I have a better gift, but I figured I'd give it to you Saturday, if that's fine." Yeah, of course," Izuku said, surprised that Aizawa had something else for him, apparently. Aizawa gave a nod, and the three spent lunch together, and Izuku enjoyed spending time with the two teachers. The rest of the day passed, with All Might also wishing him a happy birthday and getting him a gift, which was apparently a trip to Island, though All Might had admitted he had planned to do that before. But he also would see about asking his friend to make Izuku some good support gear to help him and his quirks. It was such an amazing gift. Izuku went home, smiling and feeling warm from the amazing day he had so far. He did his homework, and for a couple hours he was alone. But then, as he was about to start dinner, there was an increasingly familiar knock on his door. He blinked, but figured Maboroshi had cooked him another dinner. The neighbor really was too kind, and they had worked it out that Izuku would pay for the meals, just enough that it would cover the cost of some of the ingredients. Izuku felt bad about taking the food without paying anything, but Maboroshi didn't want him to pay at all. This way, they were both satisfied. Izuku was paying a little bit, and Maboroshi didn't feel like he was taking advantage of Izuku. He went over and opened the door. "Hello," he greeted, only for his eyes to widen as he saw Maboroshi carrying quite a few things. "Hey, you mentioned the other day that today was your birthday, so I may have gone a bit overboard, but I figured I could give you a small birthday celebration," Maboroshi said, grinning. "If there's anybody you want to call and invite over, you should." Izuku gave a small nod, stunned, but he decided to call his grandfather, who said he would be there in a couple hours, since he wasn't able to immediately stop what he was doing. He also texted some of his friends, but unfortunately most couldn't just come to the impromptu birthday party, though Uraraka said she could come over. About an hour later, Uraraka knocked on the door, and Izuku let her in. "So, this is your place?" she asked, head tilted to the side. Izuku gave a nod. I should warn you. My mom's not all the way here, mentally," he said. Uraraka looked surprised a bit, but gave a small nod. "Oh, is this one of your friends, Midoriya?" Maboroshi asked, poking his head over the counter. Izuku gave a nod. "Uraraka, this is my neighbor, Maboroshi Kumo," he introduced. "Pleasure to meet you," she greeted politely. Things returned to normal, and after another hour, his grandfather arrived. Izuku wasn't sure, but Maboroshi seemed to act a bit odd around his grandfather. Very polite. Maybe he was just worried that his grandfather wouldn't like him. The impromptu birthday party turned out quite well, and at the end, Maboroshi brought out the cake, and Izuku's heart felt so warm. The only thing bothering him a bit was just how itchy his scalp was. He said his goodbyes as his grandfather and friend left, both of them taking a bit of leftovers with them. Izuku said goodbye to Maboroshi, smiling warmly at the man, who went back to his apartment. Izuku once more scratched at his scalp. This time, though, he frowned, as he looked down at his hand, which had some strands of hair in it. He hadn't thought he had been scratching enough to tug out some of his hair. He frowned, cleaning up a bit of the mess, even if it was basically all cleaned up thanks to Maboroshi. His head was really bothering him, so he went to take a shower, and he washed his hair, only to stare down at it as more and more green strands came out, and clogging the drain very quickly. Faintly, he realized what must have happened. He had bonded with Maboroshi, and apparently that had to do with hair loss? Right. He could deal with that. It wasn't a big deal, so he didn't need to bother Recovery Girl. It was just a bit of itchiness and hair loss. No problem. Izuku stepped out of the shower, though, to stop clogging up the drain with what hair was left on his head. He spent the next half an hour removing more clumps of his hair and putting it into a grocery bag, vaguely disgusted. At the end, he stared at himself in the mirror. I really don't look good bald," he whispered. He rather hoped that he wouldn't remain bald, but tired and still trying to resist the urge to scratch at his scalp, he went to bed. Hopefully, when he woke up in the morning, the Quirk had finished changing his body to however it needed for him to use it. He managed to fall asleep, though it was uncomfortable, scratching at his scalp even in his unconsciousness. When he woke up, he was crying, his head really too itchy. It was painfully itchy. He scratched at it even more, but feeling something wet, he ripped his hand away, staring at it in the light of his bedroom, and he could see red. He swallowed. He was bleeding. He must have scratched his head too much. Kaida whined, worried, nuzzling against him, and he gently tried to send reassurance to Zur. "It's all right. I'll be fine. It's just a brief amount of pain until the quirk sets in," he said. He got up, went to the bathroom, not wanting to bleed over his bed, and wanted to see how bad the damage was. Arriving, he whined, trying so hard not to scratch. As he turned the light on, and his eyes adjusted to the brightness, He winced. His head had scratch marks all along it. Dried blood and fresh blood framed his head, and he looked like he had been mauled by a cat or a dog. He swallowed. That looks pretty bad. He was definitely going to need to contact Recovery Girl. He pulled up her contact information, twitching to not scratch his head. Hey, so I'm developing a new quirk right now. I'm at home. I would probably need healing. It's quite itchy, and I've lost all my hair. I'm on my way. Try not to scratch. Do you know what quirk you are getting? I don't think I ever got the name of the quirk. I know what it does. It's my neighbor's quirk, but I guess I forgot to ask what it was called when we were talking. Izuku felt a bit sheepish that he had forgotten to get the name of the quirk. I'll be there in half an hour. Just sit tight. Izuku sent a thumbs up, and then sat on the lid of his toilet, trying so hard to not scratch. But it got harder and harder to resist. Tears forming in his eyes, until the painful itching became unbearable. He scratched at his head, and his scalp felt almost loose. It jiggled along his head, and then he could feel it almost rip, and he cried out in pain, fresh blood trailing down the side of his head. But oh, after the pain from the rip, it felt so much better, less itchy in that area. He rubbed the tears away from his face a bit, trying to turn and look at the bit that had ripped, and he saw a small patch of skin flapping loosely. Izuku realized in a bit of horror that his entire scalp was needing to be ripped off. But if it got rid of this terrible itching sensation... Izuku whined, but lifted his hands up, going to the section of the scalp that was already loose, and he tugged at it. He cried out in pain as more of his scalp ripped away. He panted, having to stop, and he swallowed, sniffling. It's just like a Band-Aid, right? I have to rip it off fast to get the pain over with, he whispered to himself. Kaida whined, tugging on his arm, trying to get him to stop. But Izuku powered up one for all, and with a shaky, wobbling breath, he ripped the rest of his scalp off, hollering in pain. It came off with a wet, slurping noise. He dropped the scalp into the sink as he sank to his knees. Oh, his head felt so much better. A knock sounded on the door. Oh, good. Recovery Girl must be here now. Woozily, Izuku spoke. Kaida, can you get the door, please? He didn't think he was standing up by himself any time soon. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 116 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 117 will be up next, which will pick things up from where we left off, and Izuku getting some recovery after the fact. I'd love to hear your thoughts and reactions to this one. Definitely a strong shift, right, at the end of this chapter, but I really want to focus in on a lot of that took place at the beginning part, right, with Izuku having his birthday and having so much care and support, people around him giving him gifts for the first time. I really liked Yamada's gift to him with the scarf that matches up with eraser heads, right, for his capture weapon. I thought that was such a cool idea. So I'd love to hear your reactions to some parts of this. I know that, this last section may have been a little bit more shocking as Izuku comes into this other quirk, but I think there were some great elements all around, right? So the last one definitely throws a shock in there, really has you hooked on for what's going to happen next in the next chapter. And the first half of this chapter really is so great at highlighting some great fluff moments, some really great development. I don't know if anyone caught, some of those interactions between Izuku's grandfather showing up, right? And also Maboroshi being there, and maybe some interesting dynamics that were taking place there as well. So drop your comments below. I want to hear what you think. And just as a reminder, the fic is located on AO3, so if you have that opportunity to slide over, leave comments, kudos, support to the original author, I'm sure it's much appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.